And this meeting is being live streamed. Yay. Okay. And here is our story. And let me share this screen with everybody here. Share screen. And Android 233 has joined us tonight. I wonder who Bhakta Android is, or Bhakta in Android. I wonder if that's Nirhari and Bhavacharini. All right. So chapter 28 from the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. I don't know if it's actually the 28th chapter in the Bhagavatam, but it's chapter 28 in the Krishna book, releasing Nanda Maharaj from the clutches of Varuna. The Govardhan ceremony took place on the new moon day. After this, there were torrents of rain and hailstorms imposed by King Indra for 7 days. 9 days of the waxing moon having passed. On the 10th day, King Indra worshipped Lord Krishna, and thus the matter was satisfactorily settled. After this, on the 11th day of the full moon, there was Ekadashi. Maharaj Nanda observed fasting for the whole day, and just early in the morning of the Dvadashi, the day after Ekadashi, he went to take bath in the river Yamuna. He entered deep into the water of the river, but he was arrested immediately by one of the servants of Varuna Dev. These servants brought Nanda Maharaj before the demigod Varuna and accused him of taking a bath in the river at the wrong time. According to astronomical calculations, the time in which he took bath was considered demoniac. Wow. The fact was, Nanda Maharaj wanted to take a bath in the river Yamuna early in the morning before the sunrise, but somehow or other he was a little too early and he bathed at an inauspicious time. Consequently, he was arrested. When Nanda Maharaj was taken away by Varuna's servants, his companions began to call loudly for Krishna and Balaram. Immediately, Krishna and Balaram could understand that Nanda Maharaj was taken by Varuna, and thus they went to the abode of Varuna, for they were pledged to give protection. The inhabitants of Vrindavan, the unalloyed devotees of the Lord, having no shelter other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, naturally cried to him for help, exactly like children who do not know anything but the protection of their parents. Demigod Varuna received Lord Krishna and Balaram with great respect and said, "My dear Lord, actually, at this very moment, because of your presence, I am materially defeated. Although I am the proprietor of all the treasures in the water, I know that such possessions do not make for a successful life. But this moment, as I look at you, my life is made completely successful because by seeing you, I no longer have to accept a material body. Therefore, O Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Supreme Brahman, and Super Soul of everything, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you. You are the Supreme Transcendental Personality. There is no possibility of imposing the influence of material nature upon you. I'm very sorry that by being foolish, by not knowing what to do or what not to do, I have mistakenly arrested your father, Nanda Maharaj. So I beg your pardon for the offense of my servants. I think that it was your plan to show me your mercy by your personal presence here. My dear Lord Krishna Govinda, be merciful to me. Here is your father. You can take him back immediately."
Shall I proceed?
I hope so.
Oh, thank you. In this way, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, rescued his father and presented him before his friends with great jubilation. Nanda Maharaj was surprised that although the demigod was so opulent, he offered such respect to Krishna. That was very astonishing to Nanda, and he began to describe the incident to his friends and relatives with great wonder. Actually, although Krishna was acting so wonderfully, Maharaj Nanda and Mother Yashoda could not think of him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Instead, they always accepted him as their beloved child. Thus, Nanda Maharaj did not accept the fact that Varuna worshipped Krishna because Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rather, he took it that because Krishna was such a wonderful child, he was respected even by Varuna. The friends of Nanda Maharaj, all the cowherd men, became eager to know if Krishna were actually the Supreme Personality, and if he were going to give them all salvation. When they were all thus consulting amongst themselves, Krishna understood their minds, and in order to assure them of their destiny in the spiritual kingdom, he showed them the spiritual sky. Generally, ordinary persons are engaged simply in working hard in, please turn the page. Generally, ordinary persons are engaged simply in working hard in the material world, and they have no information that there is another kingdom or another sky, which is known as the spiritual sky, where life is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. As it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, a person returning to that spiritual sky never returns to this material world of death and suffering. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is always anxious to give information to the conditioned soul that there is a spiritual sky far, far beyond this material sky, transcendental to the innumerable universes created within the total material energy. Krishna is, of course, always very kind to every conditioned soul, but as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, he is especially inclined to the devotees. Hearing their inquiries, Krishna immediately thought that his devotees in Vrindavan should be informed of the spiritual sky and the Vaikuntha planets therein. Within the material world, every conditioned soul is in the darkness of ignorance. This means that all conditioned souls are under the concept of this bodily existence.
Everyone is under the impression that he is of this material world. And with this concept of life, everyone is working in ignorance in different forms of life. The activities of the particular type of body are called karma, or fruit of action. All conditioned souls under the impression of the bodily concept are working according to their particular types of body. These activities are creating their future conditional life because they have very little information of the spiritual world. They do not generally take to spiritual activities, which are called bhakti yoga. Those who successfully practice bhakti yoga, after giving up this present body, go directly to the spiritual world and become situated in one of the Vaikuntha planets. The inhabitants of Vrindavan are all pure devotees. Their destination after quitting the body is Krishna Loka. They even surpass the Vaikuntha Lokas. That's a fact. The fact is, those who are always engaged in Krishna consciousness and mature, pure devotional service are given the chance after death to gain Krishna's association in the universes within the material world. Krishna's pastimes are continually going on, either in this universe or another universe. Just as the sun globe is passing through many places across the earthly planet, so Krishna Lila, or the transcendental advent and pastimes of Krishna, are also going on continually, either in this or another universe. The mature devotees who have completely executed Krishna consciousness are immediately transferred to the universe where Krishna is appearing. In that universe, the devotees get their first opportunity to associate with Krishna personally and directly. The training goes on, as we see in Vrindavan Leela of Krishna within this planet. Krishna therefore revealed the actual feature of the Vaikuntha planets so that the inhabitants of Vrindavan could know their destination. Was that one paragraph?
What do you think?
Mm.
I think that was one. Yeah,
Yeah,
do
I think
one
that
more.
was one. That was one. Okay, thus Krishna showed them the eternal, ever-existing spiritual sky, which is unlimited and full of knowledge. Within this material world, there are different gradations of forms, and according to the gradations, knowledge is proportionately manifested. For example, the knowledge in the body of a child is not as perfect as the knowledge in the body of an adult man. Everywhere, there are different gradations of living entities, in aquatic animals, in plants and trees, in the reptiles and insects, in birds and beasts, and in the civilized and uncivilized human forms of life. Above the human form of life, there are the demigods, Charanas and Siddhas on up to Brahmaloka, where Lord Brahma lives. And among these demigods, there are always different gradations of knowledge. But past this material world, in the Vaikuntha sky, everyone is full of knowledge. All the living entities there are engaged in devotional service to the Lord, either in the Vaikuntha planets or in Krishna Loka.
I can read now, by the way. And by the way, it says here that, wait, go back. It says that, I think it's important to note, but past this material world, in the Vaikuntha sky, everyone is in full knowledge, not full of knowledge. It says in full knowledge.
What's
So,
the difference?
Well, in full knowledge, we can see everything clearly. I mean, full of knowledge is nice, but I think in full knowledge, it implies a totality of vision and understanding totality. That's all. Not
Fully
that
realized. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I kind of get excited in full knowledge. And I was just thinking what it must be like to hang out with people like that. That's something we have to look forward to, folks.
Yeah. Thank
Can you
you.
imagine?
Yeah.
That's another impetus for us to get out of here and go there. We'll be
Thank you for,
dealing
yes.
in a whole different way in relationships.
Yeah, what a wonderful mindset to be with someone who's fully conscious of their relationship with Krishna. Wow.
And
Mm-hmm.
full of love for everybody else.
Yeah. No envy.
No envy. We all want to just pull each other closer to Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
That's the virtue of seeking advanced association with advanced devotees.
Right. Well, that's what we're also doing right now by hearing from Srila Prabhupada and discussing amongst ourselves as well.
Absolutely.
Hi, Nitya Leela. Hare Krishna. I didn't say hello to you.
Nitya Leela is making a rare appearance. Wow. Hare Krishna, Nitya Leela.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Where are you coming to us from?
Pakistan.
Oh,
Karachi.
Yeah.
that's so wonderful. Happy
Yes.
to have you.
Srila Prabhupada said he will take the dust from the feet of any devotees preaching in the Muslim countries. So imagine how much dust Prabhupada is taken from the feet of Nitya Leela and her two brothers. Is it two brothers or three brothers?
Two brothers.
Two brothers, and she also has a sister as well.
Yeah.
I would love to hear some time about preaching there and dispel kind of the myths or all the, we hear we want to hear what's really going on.
Maybe we can save some time for Nitya Leela after we finish this. I wanted to read a little bit of Upadeshamrita, but maybe we can stop for a few minutes. Okay, it's your turn now, I think, Rasangi. Where Nandapatni, where did you finish?
I
So
got
I
it.
think it's thus Krishna showed.
Thus
Okay, is that
Krishna-
where Rasangi starts?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, thank you.
Thus Krishna showed them the eternal, ever-existing spiritual sky, which is unlimited and full of knowledge. Within this material world, there are different gradations of forms. And according to the gradations, knowledge is proportionately manifested. This is so interesting to me.
Actually,
Huh?
I think we did read that.
Did
Oh,
we?
yeah, you did. It's
Yes,
the next
we did.
paragraph.
We did.
I
Sorry.
was thinking, I thought it was going into more detail about that.
Yeah.
As it is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, full of knowledge means knowing Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Vedas and the Bhagavad Gita, it is also stated that in the Brahma Jyoti or spiritual sky, there's no need of sunlight, moonlight, or electricity. All those planets are self-illuminating, and all of them are eternally situated. There is no question of creation and annihilation in the Brahma Jyoti spiritual sky. Bhagavad Gita also confirms that beyond the material sky, there is another eternal spiritual sky, where everything is eternally existing. Information of the spiritual sky can be had only from great sages and saintly persons who have already surpassed the influence of the three modes of material nature. Unless one is constantly situated on that transcendental platform, it is not possible to understand spiritual nature. Therefore, it is recommended that one should take yoga and keep himself engaged 24 hours a day in Krishna consciousness, which places one beyond the reach of the modes of material nature. One in Krishna consciousness can easily understand the nature of the spiritual sky and Vaikuntha Loka. The inhabitants of Vrindavan, being always engaged in Krishna consciousness, could therefore very easily understand the transcendental nature of the Vaikuntha Lokas.
Okay, Jalila, you just get one paragraph and then you can talk to us.
Why
That's
we're not over? Oh, I
Yeah.
thought you were going to do it at the end of the call, whatever.
Okay. So it is from thus Krishna led all, right?
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Thus Krishna led all god men headed by Nanda Maharaja to the lake where Akurra was later shown the Venkuta planetary system. They took their bath immediately and saw the real nature of Venkuta Lokas. After seeing the spiritual sky and the Venkuta Lokas, all the men headed by Nanda Maharaja felt wonderfully blissful. And coming out of the river, they saw Krishna, who was being worshipped with excellent prayers. Thus ends in the Bhakti Vedanta purport of the 28th chapter of Krishna, releasing Nanda Maharaja from the clutches of Varuna.
So I'd just like to open things up for a little bit of discussion. One of the thoughts that came to me in this pastime is how rashly the servants of Varuna acted, that when Nanda Maharaj went in for a bath, and they were like, so, there's that saying, those who follow the letter of the law and those who follow the spirit of the law. There's niyamagraha and niyamagraha. Either following the rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or being whimsical in not following them strictly, which is Nectar of Instruction number 2, I think it is, the causes of fall down. So in this case, we see that the servants of Varuna Dev, the demigod in charge of the waters, the oceans, his servants came and immediately abducted the father of Lord Krishna, his foster father in Vatsalya Ras, and apprehended him. And so he was calling out, right, to Krishna and Balaram, and they appeared, and ultimately Varuna took responsibility for his wayward servants, for being offensive to the father, because the father was what is it? It was on Dwadasi that he was.
Yeah.
It was on Dwadasi, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of the story of Maharaja Ambarish. It was also an Ekadasi day that he was fasting. And Maharaja Ambarish, the Rasa Muni arrives with this big entourage. And so Ambarish Maharaj was put in an awkward position, like he didn't want to eat before his guests, but at the same time, he needed to break his fast in order to get the benefit of the Ekadasi. So he just drank a little water, and Durvasa Muni flipped out and cursed him. And Ambarish Maharaj was like amazingly humble to cause him. He considered himself to be the cause of all the problems. It's hard for me to fathom, because what else could have Ambarish Maharaj have done in that circumstance? There was no fault. But the lesson I get out of that pastime, sorry, I'm digressing, is that even if you're not at fault, if you upset somebody, it's still, what's the word I'm looking for? It's still, I don't want to say it's proper, but it shows you value the relationship with the other person, even though you didn't do anything wrong, to be hey, I'm so sorry, I've upset you instead of saying, hey, well, that's your problem. I'm following the rules and regulations. You're just a fanatic. No, Ambarish Maharaj, he took it on the chin, and he regretted it. And I think maybe he even performed some austerities. So I'm just thinking here how sometimes if you're in a managerial position and you have other assistants, if they go off the deep end and do something crazy, like arresting the father of Nanda Maharaj, then ultimately the responsibility goes back to the head. In this case, it was Varuna. Does anyone have anything else they got out of that pastime?
Well, even the pastime of Maharaj Pariksit and Shringi, and how he cursed Pariksit Maharaj for something really simple and really wasn't so bad, but it was meant to be as well.
Right.
It was history, right? History
Mhm.
making.
Definitely.
So it happened, huh? It
Mhm.
doesn't exactly make sense. It seems like, huh? I mean, he lost his cool. He became so angry. That's another thing. Don't take your anger out. Deal with your anger. When you're calm, take some action.
Uh-huh.
It was the son, the immature son.
Yeah,
Shringi.
the little kid, Shringi, his name was.
Yeah, and he put a snake skin around Maharaj Pariksit. Maharaj Pariksit, he just asked for some water,
Yeah.
right? And his
The
father
father was
of
meditating.
Shringi,
Yeah.
right. And so, you wouldn't expect Maharaj Pariksit to put a dead snake skin as a garland over the yogi.
That was
But-
kind of insulting too. And
Yeah.
yet, but the reaction he got was like, whoa. It was
7
very-
days left to live. It sounds
Yeah.
like,
It was a
I think
setup.
they made a television show about that, right? A guy that just had so many days left to live. Same theme. I remember it as a little boy, but I don't think he was hearing and chanting and remembering about Krishna before he left his body.
And I
Any
think
other-
in
Yes.
the pastimes here, in the different examples we're citing, it all comes down to the devotee taking the humble position, which is also exemplified by Prahlad Maharaj.
Oh, nice. You're saying because of the apologetic mood of the servants and Varuna?
Yeah, I mean, they're not, the devotee does not go into the retaliatory mode,
Ah,
but they always take the higher road,
the
which
higher road.
is the humble
So
position.
it's interesting you bring that up, because Chaitanya Charan on the podcast he has had several days of bringing senior devotees in to talk about the terrible things that have happened in Bangladesh and how should devotees
Uh-huh.
respond to that.
Respond, yeah.
It's really been very interesting.
So what was the gem that came out of that?
Well, it's mostly that we don't let our emotions run away with us. We don't retaliate from a place of anger. We may be angry, but to fight from that place is ridiculous. It's foolish. So we need to channel it into taking good action in response to even terrible injustices that have happened. That's what I've gotten out of it. And I think it's worth all, because sometimes devotees will just get triggered and they just off and running and violent and making things worse. And by the way, he described in this podcast what happened. So what happened in the beginning was there was a Muslim book placed on the floor and in a Krishna temple, and the Muslims took great offense at that. But it wasn't, when they look back at they have video, it was a Muslim who himself put the book on the floor. It was inciting trouble. And they got it. They were inciting trouble.
So it was kind of a plant, kind of.
Yeah.
It was a plant.
Yeah.
See.
Anyway, you're in a Muslim country too. Pakistan is primarily Muslim, right? I mean, that's why I was curious to answer.
Well, only 22 million Hindus and how many Muslims?
No, it's contrary actually. I mean, 25 crore Muslims and 2 to 3% residing as Hindu.
I see.
Yeah.
25 crore means 250 million?
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. But the amazing thing, Rasangi, I'm sorry, I want to tell this part of the story, and Nichilila can fill in all the blanks. But her brother, Ramasaka, and her other brother, Chandan Roy, cultivated the officials in the Pakistani government so nicely. And I'm sure Nichilila had something to do with it too, because she used to be, when I first met her, she was like the director of communications for all the ISKCON temples in Pakistan. How many temples was that, Nichilila?
10 temples.
10 temples. She was organizing programs and, Zooms and conferences. She was doing all of that. And her brothers, somehow or other, I mean, I still don't really know how they did it, but convinced the Pakistani authorities to donate 10 million Pakistani rupees to print Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita in the Sindh and Urdu languages. About how many books did that come out to, Nichilila? About
10,000 Bhagavad Gita total. 10,000.
I mean, can you imagine if Prabhupada heard that today, he'd be jumping for joy.
Absolutely. Well, he is.
Yes, he is, for sure, wherever he is.
Yeah.
That is so
That's
exemplary.
wonderful, Prabhu.
Really wonderful. And I just am so curious, like this whole thing in Bangladesh has to have been a discussion in Pakistan as well. Because there's, they're signing petitions to get reparations now. You know that? Gaurav Das and everybody?
Yeah.
There's
Yes,
a big
yes.
effort to get reparations and make things right. I don't know how that's going, but it must be a discussion in Pakistan as well. How are they responding to those incidences? Any idea?
Do they know about that there, Nichilila? Have they heard about that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean, yeah.
what's the response, please?
Yeah, as per observation, some of the area, there is liberty for practicing all the freedoms. There is liberty for practicing Krishna consciousness. But some of the areas are really sort of high security areas, They are not revealing that temple residing or sort of like very low profile sort of offerings to Lord, and I visited those areas as well, these days. It's like 50-50%. Some of the areas there is so much liberty and political commitments are very strong, and they're very supporting and sort of donating and sponsoring for Bhagavad Gita, for Sankirtana van. And some of the areas there are like sort of high security concerns, and so they
Suspicious, more suspicious.
yeah, yes. Yeah.
Has it complicated your preaching there at all? Has it made it more difficult?
The incident that happened in Bangladesh,
No,
Nichilila, did it no impact there? No?
no, nothing. We are moving at the same progressive pace, you know. Yeah.
Very interesting.
And her brother goes up to Baluchistan, which is further north, like near Afghanistan, I guess. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And he's I don't want to say infiltrating, but anyway, he's traveling around every town and village. And can you say something about Ramasaka, your brother Ramasaka? What is he doing at this current time?
Yeah, he was in Sindh area. Sindh
Sindh.
is one Sindh in previous week, and before that he was in Balochistan. So he just came yesterday back home, and I also returned back from KPK, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa territory. That is again bordering. It is sharing the border with Afghanistan. It's a Pathan community oriented area actually. So I came back yesterday night from there. He came back from Sindh area. So we were sharing our experiences, and he was very happy that I have explored a temple out there, and they have invited for preaching sessions, especially Bhagavad Gita. That was my learning, that if we directly communicate people regarding ISKCON or Krishna consciousness or Prabhupada, they might would not be having any interest. But if we talk about Bhagavad Gita teachings, okay, let we educate your pupil, your children, they'll be very well received, you know. That was my learning here. So I talk about Bhagavad Gita.
Nice. In other words, they're more interested in the content than the institution.
Exactly. Yeah, that was my recent learning actually.
And if I may dare say, sometimes Nichila, you've been challenged. You and your brothers have been challenged by devotees within ISKCON, complicating your ability to serve there because of desire for positions and who's going to control this or that. But what Krishna is revealing to you is that when you don't allow yourself to be constricted by institutional policies, then you're able to go on with your seva, correct?
Exactly. I mean, there comes a times where ups and downs are there, and you really feel very discouraged and demotivated. But Vaishnava Sangha is a key which is uplifting, and that keep us on track, and we strive for Krishna mission, and we continue rendering services. So I must appreciate Gaurav Prabhu's always advice and his guidance keep me abreast with challenges overcome. And also there are some other devotees like Subal Vilas Prabhu, that is another devotee, and he was referred by Gaurav Prabhu. Almost every second day I speak to him, and he is always he is very concerned, he's very caring, and he like always showers blessings, and he says that you are grandchildren of Srila Prabhupada, so you should keep doing despite of all institutional limitations or policies or whatever coming across.
She's speaking of Subal Vilas, who used to be president of our Chicago temple. He lives about an hour and a half from me here. His Punjabi, actually, originally he was born in, I think, near Karachi. Is that correct? In Pakistan.
Yeah.
And our god sister Ashatala is his wife's name, and he's got Indriyesh is his son, and he grew up getting cookies from Prabhupada, and he has daughter Meenakshi, and so the whole family, they've received a lot of mercy from Prabhupada. Prabhupada did personal programs in their home, and they allowed Subal Vilas to wash Prabhupada's feet, and Subal Vilas asked Prabhupada to dry his feet on Subal Vilas's head. Using his hair as a towel. And so I introduced Subal, actually introduced several devotees to Nityalila, several godbrothers, so that they could, because she was organizing Zoom programs so that they could preach. So I was organizing a Nanda to preach, because the interesting thing in Pakistan is there's even more temples of Kirtanananda Prabhu than there is of ISKCON. About how many Kirtanananda temples are there?
It's like around 20 temples, and they are building more. It's around 20, but they are building more.
They're building more. Wow. So there's kind of a transcendental competition between ISKCON and Kirtananda Prabhu.
It is,
Oh,
they are in majority actually. Yeah.
Mm.
That's shocking, isn't it? That's so surprising information. I never knew that. So were you born there?
Yeah, I am. Yeah. Yes.
And so do you have Sunday feast programs and guests coming to the temples like that?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah.
And you don't feel the discrimination, hostility so much at all?
Yes, we are at management side. My brother is vice president ISKCON Pakistan. We try to actually balance out for all the devotee caring and other things. Yeah.
So do you have some outreach programs to help people? Is that the
So
way you?
much. So much. Yeah.
Yes.
Outreach. Yeah.
So would you have a Vaishnav care? Do you have health care? Do you distribute food, prasadam? What do
So
you do?
much. Yeah.
All of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
See how we don't even know what's going on in other parts of the world.
I know.
I don't.
She's
I
been
mean,
making you've been making reports to nandavats.com, I think, in ISKCON News.
Yeah, exactly. But recently, since 2 months, I am not writing any article, not publishing any manuscript, and yeah. But
Nitya Leela was being threatened by her previous boss that if she didn't take the injection, she couldn't work there. So she found another company.
yeah,
Before you were in charge of 250 people in your care. Is that
yeah,
right, Sheila?
yeah,
250 doctors were under your care, right?
now I have less stuff. Yeah,
Right.
yes.
But you have more work to do in certain ways.
Yeah, exactly. It's like developing a medium size scale, medium size organization into higher level. Previously, I was in a large size organization, so that's the difference.
But they're not pressuring you to take the injection now.
No, not at all. No.
Good. You're safe.
Yeah. There are some other means to, I mean, for resolutions, and there are so many means. Yeah.
Oh, so exciting to hear all of that. Yeah, thank you so
She's a
much.
trooper. She's a
Thank you.
trooper. Wow. Yeah, amazing. She's Prabhupada. Her and her family, they're Prabhupada secret. I don't want to say secret agents, but
Well,
secret weapon.
Well,
Inner
you're getting
circle.
lots of blessings. You're getting lots of mercy from Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya.
Disciplic succession.
Sure. I mean, it's by the mercy of the spiritual master one actually
Yes.
gets these types of service, and they're utterly unique and very intimate when one gets that empowerment to spread Krishna consciousness. So you're obviously getting the blessings, your family, which is wonderful.
And it's the more risk, more gain. Like Prabhupada, when you went behind the Iron Curtain with his few devotees, that was such a risk, but there was so much blessings.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So they call that area where she is in Pakistan, Prahlada Desh.
Yeah.
Is that because Prahlad is from that area, Nitya Leela?
Yeah. Yes. Bilkul. Yeah. True.
He appeared in which place, in which village or town?
It's a Multan Puri. Multan Puri was previously called as Prahlad Puri.
Wow.
Prahlad Puri, ki jai.
Right.
Wow.
That's
And
wonderful.
also you were telling me that one of Ram's sons was a Kush. Love
Yes.
and Kush.
Yeah. Yes.
They appeared there. Is that right?
Exactly.
Kush,
The
as in
sun,
Hindu Kush.
yeah, the sun Kosh appeared in Kusur. That is called as Kusur now, but he ruled over there, Kush. And the love, that city is named as now Lahore.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
So was that out of the ashram of the sages that where he appeared? Was there like an ashram there where those boys appeared?
ruined. I mean, so many of temples and so many of places are no more there. No.
But I was saying to Nitya Leela that we need to establish temples at Prahlad Puri, and there should be a Nrsingadev deity there, if the Muslims don't mind.
There was actually, I mean, Nrsingadev deity was there, like, but now it is no more. Some mishappenings happened to remove that deity, and yeah,
Prahlad Nrsingadev temple. Yeah.
yeah,
In
exactly.
Prahlad Puri. Wow,
Yeah.
what a project.
And again, the proposal has been submitted to government to rejuvenate that place, Yeah.
Mm.
And a temple to Lord Ram in Lahore,
Yes.
Kushur.
Kusur and Kusur, Lahore and Kusur, two cities, Love
Oh,
and Kush.
it's not the same? I thought you said it's a Kushur and
Two
Lahore.
cities. Kush, one of the son ruled Kusur and one of the son ruled Lahore. So there were
Oh,
two
that was
sons.
Love. Love was in
Love.
Lahore and Kush was in Kushur. Oh,
Kusur,
wow.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Are they near each other?
Yeah, very near, yeah.
Wow, lots of projects, a whole lot, at least one lifetime of service, many lifetimes.
Exactly.
If
Thank
I could,
you.
if I could come, I would help if I could.
Yeah,
So-
this COVID is making so much limitations. Otherwise, there was a proposal in my brother's mind that we would be inviting you and Jivan Mukta Prabhu and for preaching and sessions and kirtanas. Yeah, we need it. A huge potential is being identified, but yes, we need strategic direction and guidance.
Yeah, tremendous potential there.
Yeah, it is.
And
Yes.
you've done this amazing thing to cultivate a favorable relationship with the Pakistan government officials. I never heard of such a thing.
Krishna mercy. I mean, yesterday night I was recalling that incidents. It's a very personal thing, but I was just recalling while I spoke to Ram Sakha Prabhu, and I was thinking that how his journey has like advanced. Like he went to UAE market for upgrading his material credentials, right? But there he found devotees association, and
UA
then
meaning United Arab Republic.
exactly.
He was there for a
Yeah.
while. Yeah.
So he became interested in Krishna consciousness propagation, and but their environmental conditions were not favorable. Like he was not able to manage his offerings, and his dietary patterns were being hindered because of work conditions, and he was alonely managing everything, cooking and adjusting lifestyle. So he was like feeling challenges for offerings and doing 16 rounds, and so he was very very disturbed, because he was good at doing a job and earning money, but his sadhana was disturbed. So he prayed to Srila Prabhupada, and that is quite remarkable. He said me that one night he was so much disturbed and he prayed Srila Prabhupada, and he saw Srila Prabhupada in dream that Srila Prabhupada shook hand of Ram Sakha Prabhu that time.
Oh.
That was like, oh my God, it gives so much motivation, when Srila Prabhupada comes.
Prabhupada said that if the spiritual master appears in a dream after he disappears, that is a very important dream. That's something to be considered.
Exactly. And he says that that time was like make or break situation, because he didn't wanting to continue his job because of hindrance or obstacles and sadhana. Sadhana was more important to him, and he saw Srila Prabhupada, that was like, I always recall this dream, because it's clear to hear, and he then progressed very much into his life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Inspired by Prabhupada through dreams. I better start praying a lot more to Prabhupada so he'll come to me in my dreams too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I myself too, I will also.
Very sincere. I wanted to tell you, Nicholila, that yesterday I received a friend request from a young lady in Lebanon. Her Facebook name is Michelin, named after Saint Michael, because she's from a Christian family. Michelin Bou, Bou. and I just spoke to her briefly, and she's translating all of Prabhupada's books into Arabic, and she's in
Wow.
Lebanon. And I said, you have to talk to Nitya.
Yeah,
And so
wonderful.
I made a little Facebook box for you,
Okay.
and I brought your sister in too, because I thought,
Sure.
because she seems like she's kind of up there, not exactly alone, but they've got like a little Gornitai temple and Jagannath there. It's a center. It's not like a full blown, but and yeah, she finished the Bhagavad Gita and Beyond Birth and Death. And she's trying to do several books before she starts on the Bhagavatam. But I'm thinking, wow, that's amazing, translating. Prabhupada would be so pleased. And I was thinking that maybe for your preaching also, even though you have Urdu and Sindh, maybe some Arabic books
Yeah.
would be appreciated. And she's creating them, she's translating them.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. So I brought you together. That's what I like to do. I'm a little bit of a catalyst. And I've started a conversation for you. So you have to look in your notifications for
Sure.
Michelin Wu. And then, because she's already said that she's offering her obeisances to you, but I don't know if you saw the box or not.
I'll check that. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah,
Please
really
make friendship
appreciate
with
it.
her. She'll be very inspired by you, I'm sure. So shall we go on to a little bit of nectar of instruction before the end of the night? Okay. Yeah, I think it's so cool reaching that Nicholi
Thanks for
family.
sharing, Prabhu. It's really so heartwarming.
And Nanda Patni herself, I'd love to hear her stories sometimes. She's been a trooper out there in a van, traveling all over the place, preaching Krishna consciousness. We'll have to hear from you one of these sessions, Nanda Patni. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Don't be a miser. Share the nectar. Okay, here it is. So this is where we left off. We're still on the first verse. And Nichilila, you only read one paragraph. So would you like to read one paragraph here in his Anuvriti explanation?
Yeah, sure. In his Anuvrati explanation of Upandas Amrita, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakura writes that a material identification gives three kinds of urges: the urge to speak, the urge or demands of the mind, and the demands of the body. When a living entity pays victims to these three types of urges, his life becomes inauspicious. One who practices raising these demands or urges is called tapasvi, or one who practices austerities. By such tapasya, one can overcome victimization by the material energy, the external potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Thank you. When we refer to the urge to speak, we refer to useless talking, such as that of the impersonal Mayavadi philosophers, or of persons engaged in fruitive activities, technically called karma kanda, or of materialistic people who simply want to enjoy life without restriction. All such talks or literatures are practical exhibitions of the urge to speak. Many people are talking nonsensically and writing volumes of useless books, and all this is the result of the urge to speak. To counteract this tendency, we have to divert our talking to the subject of Krishna. This is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 5th chapter, 10th and 11th verses. Na yadvachas chitra padam harer yasho jagat pavitram pragrinita karhichit tadvaya samtirtam ushanti manasa na yatra hangsa niramantyu sikshaya. Those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows, since the all-perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode. They do not derive any pleasure there. Tadvag visargo janata gaviplavo yasmin pratishlokam abadavati api Namanyanantasya yasho nikitani yat shrinvanti gayanti grinanti sadavaha. Krishna Chandra Prabhu, would you like to read a couple of paragraphs?
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed toward bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. The conclusion is that only when we talk about devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead can we refrain from useless, nonsensical talk. We should always endeavor to use our speaking power solely for the purpose of realizing Krishna consciousness.
Nanda Patni?
As for the agitations of the flickering mind, they are divided into two divisions. The first is called avirodapriti, or unrestricted attachment, and the other is called viroda yukta krodha, anger arising from frustration. Adherence to the philosophy of the Mayavadis, belief in the fruitive results of the Kamavadis, and belief in plans based on materialistic desires are called avirodapriti. Jnanis, karmis, materialistic plan makers generally attract the attention of conditioned souls. But when the materialists cannot fulfill their plans, and when their devices are frustrated, they become angry. Frustration of material desires produces anger. Similarly, the demands of the body can be divided into three categories: the demands of the tongue, the belly, and the genitals. One may observe that these three senses are physically situated in a straight line as far as the body is concerned, and that the bodily demands begin with the tongue. If one can restrain the demands of the tongue by limiting its activities to eating of prasad, the urges of the belly and the genitals can automatically be controlled in this connection. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur says, Sharirara Vijajal Jitendriyate Ka Jive Pale Vishaya Sagare Tamade Jivayati Lobamoya Sudurmati Take Jatagati Nasamsare Krishna Baradayamay Karibara Jiva Joy Swaprasad and Adila Vai Sayanamrita Kau Radha Krishna Guna Gau Premedako Chaitanyanitai. O Lord, this material body is a lump of ignorance, and the senses are a network of paths leading to death. Somehow or other, we've fallen into this ocean of material sense enjoyment, and of all the senses, the tongue is the most voracious and uncontrollable. It's very difficult to conquer the tongue in this world, but you, dear Krishna, are very kind to us. You have sent this nice prasad to help us conquer the tongue. Therefore, let us take this prasad to our full satisfaction and glorify your Lordship, Sri Sri Radha and Krishna, and in love, call for the help of Lord Chaitanya and Prabhu Nityananda.
And in the lineup here, I've got Nitya Leela is next. Nitya Leela, can you read?
Yeah. There are 6 kinds of rasas taste, and if one is agitated by one of them, he becomes controlled by the urges of the tongue. Some persons are attracted to the eating of meat, fish, crabs, eggs, and other things produced by semen and blood and eaten in the form of dead bodies. Others are attracted by eating vegetables, creepers, spinach, or milk products, but all of them are satisfaction for the tongue's demands. Such eating for sense gratification, including the use of extra quantities of spices like chili and tamarind, it is of given by the Krishna consciousness person. The use of pan, haritaki, betel nuts, various spices used in pan making, tobacco, LSD, marijuana, opium, liquor, coffee, and tea is indulged in it fulfill illicit demands. If one can practice accepting only remnants of food offered to Krishna, it is possible to get free from Maya's victimization. Vegetables, grains, fruits, milk products, and water are proper food to offer to the Lord as Lord Krishna himself prescribes. However, if one accepts prasada only because of its palatable taste and thus eats too much, he also face way to trying to satisfy the demands of the town. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us to avoid very palatable dishes even while eating prasada. If we offer palatable dishes to the deity with the intention of eating such nice food, we are involved in trying to satisfy the demands of the tongue. If we accept the invitation of a rich man with an idea of receiving palatable food, we are also trying to satisfy the demands of the tongue. In Chaitanya Charitamrita is stated, Jivera lalase yei iti uti dhaya Sisindra Prayana Krishna Nahi Paya. That person who runs here and there, seeking to gratify his palate and who is always attached to the desires of the stomach and genitals is unable to attain Krishna.
Thank
As
you.
stated before. Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to ask for Sangi. Can you read the next two?
As stated before, the tongue, the belly, and the genitals are all situated in a straight line, and they fall in the same category. Lord Chaitanya said, I can hardly see the Sanskrit.
Balana kaibe ara balana paribe.
Do not dress luxuriously and do not eat delicious foodstuffs. Chaitanya Charitamrita Anjalila 6:236. Those who suffer from diseases of the stomach must be able to control the urges of the belly, at least according to this analysis. When we desire to eat more than necessary, we automatically create many inconveniences in life. However, if we observe fasting days like Ekadashi and Janmashtami, we can restrain the demands of the belly. Or?
That was just like almost one paragraph
Right.
there.
I'll read one more. As far as the urges of the genitals are concerned, there are two, proper and improper, illegal and illicit sex. When a man is properly mature, he can marry according to the rules and regulations of the Shastras and use his genitals for begetting nice children. This is legal and religious. Otherwise, he may adopt many artificial means to satisfy the demands of the genitals, and he may not use any restraint. When one indulges in illicit sex life, as defined by the Shastras, either by thinking, planning, talking about, or actually having sexual intercourse, or by satisfying the genitals by artificial means, he is caught in the clutches of Maya. These instructions apply not only to householders, but also to tyagis, those who are in the renounced order of life. In his book, Prema Vivarta, chapter 7, Sri Jagadananda Pandit says, you want to read that? That's good for me.
Varage bae gramya katana shuni bekane gramya vartana kahibe ya be ane swapane onakara bae Shri Sambhashana Grihe Shri Chadiya bae Ashiya Chavanna Yadi Chaha Pranaya Rakite Gorangarasane Chota Haridasera Katatake Yenamane Ballana koibe ara ballana paribe Hridayete Radha Krishna Sarvada Sevibe. Should I read?
Yeah, your turn.
My dear brother and my dear sisters, you are in the renounced order of life and should not listen to talk about ordinary worldly things, nor should you talk about worldly things when you meet with others. Do not think of women even in dreams. You have accepted the renounced order of life with the vow that forbids you to associate with women. If you wish to associate with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you must always remember the incident of Chota Haridas and how he was rejected by the Lord. Do not eat luxurious dishes or dress in fine garments, but always remain humble and serve their lordship, Shri Shri Radha Krishna, in your heart of hearts. Krishna Chandra Prabhu. Krishna Chandra, are you there?
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm here. I apologize. The conclusion is that one who can control these 6 items, speech, mind, anger, tongue, belly, and genitals, is to be called a Swami or Goswami. Swami means master, and Goswami means master of the go, or senses. When one accepts the renounced order of life, he automatically assumes the title of Swami. This does not mean he is the master of his family, community, or society. He must be master of his senses. Unless one is master of his senses, he should not be called Goswami, but Godas, servant of the senses. Following in the footsteps of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, all Swamis and Goswamis should fully engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. As opposed to this, the Godasas engage in the service of the senses or in the service of the material world. They have no other engagement. Prahlad Maharaj has further described the Godas as Adantago, which refers to one whose senses are not controlled, as Adantago cannot become a servant of Krishna. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 5, Shloka 30, Prahlad Maharaj has said, Matirna Krishne Parataha Svatova Mito Vibhagyeta Griha Vratanam Adanta Gobir Vishatam Tamishram Punaha Punascharvita Charvananaham. For those who have decided to continue their existence in this material world for the gratification of their senses, there is no chance of becoming Krishna conscious, not by personal endeavor, by instruction from others, or by joint conferences. They are dragged by the unbridled senses into the darkest region of ignorance, and thus they madly engage in what is called chewing the chewed.
Can I make one comment?
I'm going to stop there for discussion. Yes, please.
You know, I brought this up at a group I was in. Maybe there were 15 people there, and I had just read that, you know, if people want to know what is a spiritual master, or some of our parents think it's like somebody controlling you, you know, like somebody's over you, that they're the master and you're the slave or servant.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that at all. And, you know, it was Sundar Gopal who spoke with Srila Narayan Maharaj. In his book, he speaks about it, Yoga in the Dark Night of the Soul. Master means master of one's own senses. It has nothing to do with controlling others. So that's a really good benchmark. If you're going to accept one as a spiritual master, we want to know that they have their senses under control.
Right.
It's not, you know what I mean? I think that somehow was lost. That understanding was kind of lost, and we get bedazzled by big personalities. But really, the inspection should be, does this person have control over his anger? Or does it get angry all over the place and spew out anger towards others? Are they, you know, are they greedy, or are they, you know what I mean? We want to look, and those inspections are really important. And then we can trust that they're in a good position to accept disciples. Otherwise, one shouldn't accept disciples, and no disciple should accept a spiritual master who doesn't have his senses under control.
Yeah. Thank you. That's actually the purport or import of this verse. Understanding what are the qualifications of the spiritual master. And you've summarized it. I have a few comments, but I'd like to facilitate everyone else if anything stood out for you about what we just read. Nanda Patni, Nichili, yes.
Yeah, not particularly. So go ahead.
Krishna Chandra, anything from you?
At this moment, I can't think of anything, but thank you for asking.
Nichilila?
Nothing. I mean, it is all about mastering yourself. That was the key point, rather than mastering others. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you. I'll make my points now.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. So when we first started reading this, Prabhupada was emphasizing how everyone wants to speak. Everyone has this urge to speak. I know I especially have it. But however, when I signed up for Dhira Govinda Prabhu's transformational life skills workshop, which I took the fundamental 3 times and the advanced once,
Oh,
it opened up a whole new world for me. And I realized, I still haven't fully realized it yet, but what really stood out for me is that Lord Krishna has given me 2 ears and only 1 mouth. So I really should be listening twice as much as I love to speak. I love to speak so much as a boy. I still remember I was like 6 or 7 years, I can't remember, very young, sitting in the classroom back in Winnipeg, where I was born, Manitoba. And the teacher took Scotch tape and she put it on my mouth. I think if they did that today, they'd probably be like charged for child abuse. I mean, I wasn't angry at my teacher. I did feel very embarrassed because I was always wanting to talk to everybody that was around me. And I guess I was disturbing the class, you know? So yeah, I remember putting the X of Scotch tape on my mouth. So I'm just giving an example. How Papa was saying, everyone has an urge to speak. But then the thought that came into my mind is even more important than having an urge to speak is having an urge to hear, an urge to listen. That's more important because look at Lord Chaitanya. For 7 days, he listened to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya speaking all his Mayavadi nonsense. And then after Lord Chaitanya heard it all and completely sussed him out, and Sarvabhauma said, like, what's your problem? Like, you know, like, you're not asking any questions. And, you know, like, do you understand anything that I'm saying? And Lord Chaitanya said, my guru has taught me everything about Vedanta Sutra, but when you speak, it's like the cloud that comes and covers the sun, and it's not really decipherable. One godbrother of ours, Lakshminath Prabhu, he was telling me, like, I spent 7 years with him serving in Gornitai's temple in Ottawa back in 77 until 80 something. And he told me one time he was on the Spark Street Mall, which is just like a block away from big Parliament buildings, because Ottawa, Canada is like your Washington, D.C., it's capital. And so he met a guy on the street, and either he gave a book to him or he wanted to give a book to him. And Lakshminath said he was preaching and preaching and preaching to this guy. And the guy was listening, standing there listening to him. And then finally Lakshminath said to him, well, like, aren't you going to say anything? Like, and the guy said, and he went like this. He said, yes, you talk too much. And totally humbled Lakshminath. So he was giving that as an example to me that, Gora, you know, do you ever think that sometimes people are just being polite with you, Gora, and they're like tolerating you and they don't really want to hear everything that you have to say? Or like, in other words, there's a need to check in with people every once in a while. I noticed that Radhanath Swami did that at the Chaupati temple. I stayed there for a couple of weeks. I asked Jai Veda Swami, is there a cheap place in ISKCON I can get my teeth done? Because it's going to cost me $2,000 to get a bridge done in Canada, and I can't afford that. He said, well, he has a disciple, Murli Dar or Murli Krishna. He'll do it just for the cost. So the cost was $450.
wow.
But still US. But you know, I'd have to spend $1,500 on a plane trip to go there. And I thought, oh, well, you know, better to go that route. I'll come up with $1,500 to go to India and pay the other $450, which came out basically the same as it would have been in Canada, but I got a trip to India. Anyway, so I stayed at, okay, I don't want to lose my train of thought here. Why am I talking about Chaupati right now? Why?
Because Radhanath Swami checked you, or he checked people from speaking too much?
No, actually, Radhanath Swami would speak roughly for about, I still remember, it was a Sunday feast, and his lecture went on for 3 hours nonstop. He was just telling Krishna Leela, and he was telling the story of the wives of the Brahmins, and Krishna and Balaram wanting prasad. And maybe there was one other pastime, but everyone was sitting there in rapt attention. And I was thinking, wow, how did these people do it? Like, my legs are so sore. I need to stand up. Like, I was in pain. Anyway, he would stop like roughly every half an hour, 40 minutes. And I mean, he's expert. He would come to a point in the story, which was a cliffhanger. And then he'd say,
Yeah.
so should I stop there, or would
Yeah.
was everyone like me to go on? But he's a smart cookie, you know. He
Knows how to keep the attention of the audience. Vaishya Shekhar is very good too. He stops every now and then for reflections, gets interaction, and then he
Yes.
goes on. That's brilliant.
Yes.
Because then people are bought in and they're, yeah, I like that. It's a very good idea.
I like
Anyway,
doing that. I like doing that too. However, some devotees, they have so much to share. If you ask them to make a comment, they may take the whole time that you have for, I mean, because they'll go from one point to the next, to the next. And I mean, that's kind of wonderful, but you don't really read it much.
I
Sorry.
think that the tendency to want to overshare or talk can be dovetailed too. You know, if you're talking about Krishna and glorifying devotees, nothing wrong with that, really. It's when we get into mundane issues
Right.
and then get off that we're really,
Right. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. However, we had a Chutananda Prabhu. I had him for at least 12, 15 class, but he expressed to me that, you know, he didn't like other people interrupting him. He didn't like people telling too much about their personal life. You know, he had certain reservations. So, you know, I mean, then it makes it difficult for me as a mediator because I want to please everybody and I want to facilitate everybody, but not everyone wants to be facilitated in the way that somebody else wants to be facilitated.
you're a pretty good facilitator, Gaura. You're a very good facilitator.
Thank you. You're
I'm
very
going
kind.
to have to go, but I just wanted to, can I just tell this 2-minute story?
Oh,
real quick?
please. Yes, this is what you wanted me to remind you to tell, right?
Yeah, and then I have to go. So I was listening to the tributes to Prabhupada on Dandavats by various of his disciples. And Dravida Prabhu was sharing in San Diego. And all he wanted to do was tell this story. And the story is that when Prabhupada was first in Jhansi, he initiated his first disciple there.
Prabhakar.
And that disciple described that one time he heard Prabhupada in the upstairs level chanting for 3 days straight without sleeping or eating. And when, I mean, you may know the story and you'll have to remind me if I've got something wrong, but when this Prabhu went in and saw Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada was wearing a Kadamba garland that was long, down to his ankles.
And
normally,
big flowers, not
that's
not
right.
the little
They're normally like ping pong balls, but these were like tennis balls.
right.
And Prabhupada was completely in ecstasy. And he explained to this disciple that Krishna had appeared and given him that garland.
I think he said he went to touch Krishna's feet, didn't he? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure of the detail, but
and then Krishna put this garland on him.
much I am knowing.
And then he disappeared.
I mean, how incredible. Have you ever heard that, Sangi?
No.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard it before. I
believe that's found in Mula Prakriti's book, Srila
Is
Prabhupada.
it in there? Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty astounding. 3 days straight without sleeping or eating.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, on that wonderful translation.
Yeah, on that note, I've got other points. I'll make the next session on Monday. Rasangi, please send me the link if there's something that I should be watching that I'm missing out on. I know I'm missing out on everything.
I can't send it to you again. You have to go through your email.
Okay, I'll go.
Your Facebook request.
Messenger. I'll go there.
And it's called Yoga in the Dark Night of the Soul / the Book of Dharma Facebook group.
And that's on Sunday?
That's
Monday.
on every Wednesday, 10:30 in the morning.
Okay.
And
right.
Guru Das is there in rare form.
Wow.
He's written a book. He's getting it published soon. It's like unseen pictures unheard of stories. Yeah.
And I just wanted to mention that I got a letter from Shamasundar, and his volume 3 is out now. And I said, but I was serving him prasadam in Mayapur every day. I would get it for him because he was at his book table 2 years ago. And he said, Gora, I don't know how I'm going to put out my volume 3. I said, why? He said, I don't have the money. He said, I'm going to maybe have to get a job. But I mean, he's like 80 years old now. And so I said to him today, I said, well, I've already prepaid for volume 3, but I said, would you like me to pay again? Will that help? He said, yeah. He said, I owe it to you, I promise. But if you can send $30, then that would be very helpful. So I'm just letting you two know and to spread the word. If please help Shama Sundar Prabhu so he can get the book out to us. So I want to offer my obeisances to you both, and we'll call it a night. Vanchakopa Trubhischa.
Kripasindhuvaya Vacham, Santanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Thank you very much for your purifying association.
Really fun.
I noticed the difference.
you.
Whenever I do these afterwards, I feel my consciousness is elevated, at least for a few
Jai.
hours.
And thank you for being the glue that binds us all together.
Oh, I don't know about that. I just like to talk a lot. But thank you. Thank you. Actually, Dear Govinda said, when someone pays you a compliment, just say thank you. So instead of, no, that's not true. No, it's better communication just to say thank. And I'll say, Shabda Ke Purusham Drishu, Krishna's the ability in man and in woman. So let's give the credit to Krishna. Okay, good night.
Haribo.
Hare Krishna Prabhus. See you soon.